Hey, welcome back to the Big Ranch Show. As always, thank you for joining me. If you could, hit the subscribe button down below. Let's get right to it. Now, something rather historic has potentially taken place in on the Korean Peninsula between North and South Korea. They have agreed, apparently, to work towards taking the armistice from, I believe, 1953 that ended the Korean War. Well, it didn't really end it, but just stopped it where it was, and actually pushing it and turning it into an actual peace treaty later this year. Now, this is kind of hard to believe in a way because just a few months ago, Kim Jong-un was talking about, wiping South Korea off the map and things like that. And it's kind of surprising that he would do a complete about face in the last few months. But apparently that's what's at least going on right now. As we all know, though, in the past, deals like this have been made simply to fall through the cracks and nothing get done. Because either the North reverts back to its normal, hermit kingdom tactics, which is to, do nuclear tests and threaten to blow people up with nuclear weapons, or the South elects, a new leader who is more conservative and not in favor of unifying the peninsula. Now, I'm not sure what to think of any of it. After this agreement was put out in public, they told everybody about the agreement that they'd come to, that they were going to push to, end the armistice and turn it into an actual peace treaty to officially end the war between the two, between the North and the South. It dates back all the way to the end of World War II and the division that the Korean Peninsula was left in. That led to this, the war between North and South Korea that led to the armistice in 1953 to stop the Korean War. And so they've made these deals before, and they have fallen through down the road, shortly thereafter. So the hope is that this doesn't fall through this time. That hopefully it's at the right time and the right place for these two sides to agree to officially end the Korean War and bring peace to the peninsula of Korea. I think it's something the Korean people need. I believe it's something the world needs, is a stable Korean peninsula. Now, I do have my doubts and I do have my fears of what a unified Korea could look like. But at the same time, I think we have to give peace a chance to flourish. Now, the problem is we have a president here in the United States who is already trying to make this thing about himself. Talking about how, if it wasn't for him, this wouldn't have happened. But the thing is, that's what the president of South Korea was elected to do. Bring peace between North and South Korea. Because Koreans, or people in the South, were tired of constantly being under threat of the North. And so they elected a guy who has, told the American government, that they don't want some of this missile shield that we were going to give them. They don't want it anymore because they wanted peace with the North. And if that's what the Korean people want, that's what they're going to get. And I think at the end of the day, it's the best for the people. It's got to be completely unnerving every single day to wake up knowing that you've got a country just across the border that's wanting to bomb you. And the people in the North, oh my God, have you seen how they live? If they're not bigwigs in the Communist Party of North Korea, they have nothing. They either end up in concentration type camps, work camps, or they're just destitute. And they can barely afford to feed themselves. I hope to dear God, that this works, because these people need peace. But here are a few of my concerns, or my doubt. First off, my doubt. The doubt I have is that this will actually happen. I don't believe Kim Jong-un actually has it in him to follow through with the agreement. I don't believe he has it in him to denuclearize or to not threaten people with nuclear violence. Why? Because of the people he's around. As has been reported in the past, in North Korea especially, it's all about how he looks. Does he look weak? And by taking nuclear weapons off the table, Kim Jong-un may look weak to his inner circle. That cannot be seen as what's happening, So his people can't see it that way, and his inner circle can't see it that way. Because if they do see it that way, then Kim Jong-un could end up in danger for his life. Some of you may say, no, that wouldn't happen, but it could. So for Kim Jong-un to even step across the DMZ yesterday, and to even agree to this in the historic talks they had over the last day or so, it's a threat. It could be a physical threat to Kim Jong-un. So I think it's a huge step for him to take. But at the same time, there have been agreements in the past where it didn't involve all the pomp and circumstance of Kim Jong-un crossing the DMZ into the South, that had no solution in the end, and the armistice remained, and peace didn't happen. Now the next part, it puts to rest some of my fears. One of my fears was a nuclear united Korea. Where you take North and South with North Koreans, North Korea's nuclear technology that they already have, mixing it with all the technological advances of the South, and then you have this massive army with nuclear weapons and the money to maintain them and maintain the army. And that is a concern. So my question is, what does a post-armistice world look like between North and South Korea? Do North and South actually become one, or do they remain separate? And I think for the people of North Korea, the best thing that could happen for them would be a full unification of both parties. But how are you going to... one question I do have is, how are they going to work through all the BS that's been created over the last 70 plus years? And I'm not just talking about war. I'm talking about, how are the people of the North going to be able to meld or blend in with the South Korean society that is there now, that North Korea has been left in the dark of? They're literally they're literally not given any information about what's going on outside the world, except, for years they've been saying that they're under attack by the West, or South Korea is going to invade them, or this or that. They're taught that their leader is a supreme ruler who doesn't defecate, has been to the moon without an oxygen mask, has never lost a chess match, is a perfect being. Before these talks started, you saw how he had to frame the nuclear question for his people and the people around him by saying, we no longer are required these tests. We have already finished all the testing we need, and that we already have a great nuclear program, that we don't need testing, that we no longer need to make threats. Also, though, but what really kind of put one of my fears to rest, though, was that a nuclear armed united Korea scares the living hell out of me. And one thing that that helped me with that and has put some of that fear to rest is what happened, what was announced afterwards, and that was a pledge to rid the North Korea, or the Korean, not just North Korea, but keep rid all nuclear weapons from the Korean Peninsula. If they can go through with that, I don't care. If they want to unite completely, blend two countries back to one, one Korea, then that's fine. As long as it doesn't turn into a, I don't want communism taking over the entire continent. South Koreans have a pretty good way of life, living in a democratic kind of, society with freedoms to do what they want. And I don't know if Kim Jong-un's going to give that up, because he has his people under his thumb. What do you think? Do you think this is a good solution? Do you think peace is actually possible? Do you believe that Kim Jong-un will actually follow through with it? And what happens if South Korea elects a new president in the future who decides to dismantle all of it? Then it's all for naught. But the thing that pisses me off is Donald Trump trying to take credit for all this, even though the South has been aiming for this for a while now. Since before Donald Trump was even president of the United States. Now, I'll give Donald Trump some credit. Donald Trump, I think his craziness may have been what turned Kim Jong-un around and actually got him to see the light. For everything I hate about Donald Trump, including his insanity, I have to admit his insanity may have been the tipping point for the North. Because they sat there and they saber-rattled for 20 years. And then they were met by somebody who offered them the same in return. And said, you know what? You want to make those threats? We're going to make good on your threats for you. With his fire and fury comments. And as much as I thought, when I first heard the words about fire and, return, with a fire and fury, my first response was my stomach dropping, or going up into my throat, I guess you could say. My mouth hit the floor. I was like, oh my God. And then I got to thinking who he was dealing with. And the fact that we have tried for decades to get, get North Korea to stop. We've tried diplomacy with his father. We tried diplomacy with Kim Jong-un. And it hasn't worked. And Donald Trump instead gave him the same saber rattling back that he's been given, or giving the world for years. And now all of a sudden he does come to the table. But I don't think this shouldn't be all about Donald Trump. This is about the Korean people and the leaders of those countries coming together. Whether or not Donald Trump was the tipping point for the North or not, this is something they did. Donald Trump really can't sit here and take credit for their agreement. And right now he's taking credit for it. Mr. Trump, my suggestion is for you not to take credit for it, at least until they make it official. Now, they may have officially made this agreement, but these agreements have fallen through in the past. And you're putting your name out there on this. You're stamping your Trump stamp on this. And if it falls through, your name's on it. Anyhow, congratulations to the Korean people. Hopefully, they can work something out in the war completely, rid the peninsula of nuclear weapons, and make life all around better for the people of North Korea. Now, I don't know what a post peace treaty Korea looks like. Do they keep them separate? Do they actually unite them as one? And how do they go about doing it? Because it's a vast difference when you cross that border. I've seen documentaries of people that have gone into North Korea, and there is nothing. In a lot of places, there's absolutely nothing. I mean, there are places in North Korea where there are cities that were built by the government, by the communist government, that nobody works in, nobody lives in. They're like complete ghost towns. They built them and never moved anybody into them. You got people all across the countryside that are starving, uneducated, and believe that their leader doesn't crap. So I don't know how we're going to mix those two together. It's gonna if they unite, they're going to have to figure something out, because the disparity there is bad. And I don't want to see South Korea lose their democratic society. I don't want them becoming some communist state where they live like the North Koreans do now. So if that can be avoided, I completely support this deal. I think it's a great idea. But I just want to warn folks, this isn't over. This isn't the end of it. Just because this agreement was made doesn't mean North Korea is done being North Korea. They have backed out of these deals numerous times before. I mean, they were in a deal under Bill Clinton's term where they would get these light water reactors in turn for not having a nuclear program, and the U.S. government and other governments would help them have them. Instead, they took what little nuclear material they were getting from those and started a very big nuclear program, which led to North Korea being listed as part of the axis of evil from George W. Bush. So I don't know what to tell everybody, but I think this is a great idea if it works out. Anyhow, this has been The Big Ranch Show. I've been your host, Jacob Keck. I'll see you down the road.